Hello, Jeff and Jeff. Ben here from the Netherlands. Just called to say I enjoyed your show very much in 2013. And I hope to see many more shows in the next year. I'll be watching you. Bye.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Watchin' You. I'm Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick. Joining me from Stewiacke, Nova Scotia is...
Hey, it's Jeff Gray.
Hey, don't we sound like game show hosts?
Apparently we do.
Hey, and you just won another $500.
You might remember some episodes as Earwigs. Ew!
I'd like to thank our friend Ben Van Belzen, I hope I pronounced that right, from Netherlands, who provided us with a neat little teaser off the top of the show. Thank you, Ben, and certainly love to have people from all over the world joining us on Watchin' You.
That'd be great. That'd be really great if we had more of those. He sent that to us quite a while ago.
Yeah. So, well, we don't do too many of these shows. It's hard to work this into our busy schedule, isn't it?
Well, it's been a while.
If we could do a show a week, it'd be great, but it doesn't always happen that way, does it?
Well, we're pretty much on with about a show a month. Is pretty much what we do. So we're up to episode 18.
So we're not into quantity; we're into quality.
Episode 18. So we got, and I know I've been boycotting the whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame discussion for a while now, right?
Yeah. But you know, it's been done. It is what it is. And now I think we can take some... that's not our topic tonight, but I think we could take a moment to acknowledge that the 4 original members of KISS stood on stage and accepted the award. How'd you feel when you saw that, Jeff?
I actually was quite... I tell you what, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. I would when somebody told me that he was going to do that, I was like, oh, whatever. I thought they could probably come up with someone bigger than that, but... Man, what a job he did in the introduction of the band.
I haven't seen that. I'm dying to see that. I've only seen KISS on stage giving their speeches.
Well,
but I didn't see the introduction.
Well, you know how I've been kind of poo-pooing the whole induction thing, right? And
you wouldn't even talk about it.
Well, no.
You grew silent.
That's right. Insert next question here. But he did such a great job. He worked the audience into a frenzy before they came out. And oh my God, it was
okay. I've yet to see that part.
He changed my whole perspective on it because I was like, so whatever, and then when he came on and did that, he gradually built it, and then by the end of it, you could tell the KISS fans in the audience were just in a lather. I mean, they were just a lather. So I thought it was pretty cool, that part of it. The rest of it, I think we should discuss the rest of it. You saw the actual speeches, right?
Yeah, I think Gene did a very nice thing. He said to Ace Frehley, and then said something very nice and commendable about his guitar playing. And then he mentioned Peter Criss, the great drummer with great style. I thought it was great the way he acknowledged those two guys and their contribution to the early KISS. And that was Gene's moment to be, not the monster and not the god of thunder, but to actually be a human. And I thought it was great. I thought Gene made a great speech. Paul took the easy way out. He didn't really say anything about Ace and Peter. I don't remember what Paul said. I don't even remember it.
He said he started to say a lot. He actually kind of trashed the Hall quite a bit, I found. But he just talked about I mean he was probably the least interesting of the 4. Let's put it that way. Like Gene definitely. I mean, I would expect Gene and Paul to be politically correct in the event. I would.
Yeah, but you also expect their bullshit as well.
Yeah, but I mean...
Like comparing themselves to Superman and all that BS that they get on with. I thought that what Gene said came from the heart. And you don't hear that very often from Gene.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't... Yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't have anything... I wasn't really, hyper positive about what he said or hyper negative or anything like that. I was kind of neutral, but it was good enough. It's when it got interesting when Peter Criss got up and started to talk, I found.
Well, he wanted to acknowledge that he's a cancer survivor, and I thought that was great. If that's his moment, you take that moment. Same as Ace. Ace acknowledged that he's 7 years sober.
Yep.
And these are hurdles that Paul and Gene don't have to deal with.
Well, the whole it's interesting because I don't think that, I mean, certainly, obviously, there's nothing wrong with Peter, being proud of the fact that, that he acknowledged the people that helped him through that difficult time. And it's an important issue. I mean, not to get political on itself here, but it's something that doesn't get talked about, and it's male breast cancer. So it's an appropriate forum to do something like that. Ace, I thought when Ace did it though, I thought he had an alternative agenda. I thought his agenda.
Ace, yeah, it's almost like Ace had a point, but he didn't seem to know where he was going.
I think he knew.
Didn't seem to know if he was getting to it. I thought like Ace. Okay, to me, Ace just seemed unprepared. Being a teacher, you just know when someone's prepared for a speech and when someone is unprepared. And to me, it just looked like he was winging it and didn't really seem to know where he was going. That's just what I got.
His was the most entertaining, I'd say. But he.
Well, yeah, right. I compared addiction to diarrhea.
That was hilarious.
Willpower.
Try willpower when you got diarrhea. Right, that was like everybody's like, even Paul broke up behind him. But I think
you could see Paul giggling.
I think that I think the whole addiction thing was a veiled. Sort of a attack at Gene and Paul, because years ago, of course, they would be exactly the people that all it takes is willpower, and Ace of course would say, "Well, I had no control of it because I was born with it," and so it's that whole thing. It was very minimal, but I do think he said that, and really without pointing fingers at Paul and Gene, it was saying that to them. I think, and I think and he would say exactly what they would say about him, is that he wouldn't take. He wouldn't take responsibility for it, and that that's exactly what they would say. He said, you're born with it. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And
I mean, I can't speak for that because I don't suffer from an addiction.
I have before. I was.
Well, you were a smoker, and I was a smoker.
Yeah, I was.
That was an easy addiction to give up, compared to someone having to give up liquor or drugs. I'm sure that's an easier addiction. I don't know. And I think it's different from person to person.
They actually say that if you're addicted to nicotine, it's just as bad as being addicted to heroin. Yeah,
really?
If you're addicted to it. If you're addicted to the drug.
Yeah.
But anyway, we won't go down that path. But I think that it's just that whole point that he was making. That's what I read out of that. And there's a couple things that Peter said that I thought were, shots across the bow as well. He said specifically the one, I think he said the only spaceman when he talked about Ace. And
well, he said, in and out of makeup, I'll always be the cat man.
The cat.
And I mean, that's a dig because Tommy Thayer is sitting right there, 20 feet away.
And Eric Singer, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Eric Singer, I meant,
So I just thought that wasn't...
No sign of Vinny.
No, but Gene mentioned him. But
Gene mentioned everybody. He mentioned Vinny. He mentioned Mark St. John.
I think that...
You might, when I first heard that they were being inducted, I've said this a million times before, and there are a lot of people had the same perspective, that everybody should have been on stage. And someone to represent Eric Carr, someone to represent Mark St. John, and say, this is the KISS family. From the original incarnation in '73 right up to who we have today. They should have all been up there. But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had its own thing, and they want to induct the original band only. So it was nice that Gene acknowledged everybody who's been in the band.
I think they should have acknowledged them. I was okay with the way they did it. It actually it's funny how it happens. The four of them get up there together, and then something still happens. Like people get really excited. You can tell when those four guys are together.
Well, I was at band practice, and I kind of forgot about I didn't forget, but I knew it was happening. I said I'll just catch some things later. So I'm at band practice, and I needed to open my laptop because I was going to use it for some new chord progressions and stuff. So Facebook opens automatically, and the first thing I see is someone submitted a photo. Mm-hmm. Of the four of them on stage, and what a little girl I am. And I went, oh my God. And everyone in the band, they're not KISS fans at all. They said, well, what is it? What is it? What is it? I said, oh, look. And I mean, it was a moment. I had a moment in my band room where, for the first time in almost 20 years, there were the four original members of KISS, my original band, on stage together, and I had to take a moment to have my moment, and I think everybody felt the emotion.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, Tom Morello with that speech really kind of set it up nicely, and like I said, I could have done without the couple of digs that Peter took. I'm a huge Peter fan. I'm chewing my gum tonight for Peter. He's always chewing gum, and but I didn't think that was necessary. But other than that, it was quite neat to see them up there, and hopefully it would have been nice though. I would have liked to seen some kind of tribute. You know what I mean? Like if they couldn't play, it would have been nice, like they did with Rush when Dave Grohl and his band, a couple of his drummer.
Yes, because Linda Ronstadt was inducted, and there was a tribute. I read the list. I can't remember now, but people like Carrie Underwood and some other singers were up there, and they tributed Linda by doing a tribute set. Well, geez, yeah, they should have had, people like Kiss My Ass musicians, Garth Brooks, Anthrax, Gin Blossoms. These people should have been up there.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
Doing a tribute to Kiss.
Yeah, or anybody. I mean, take your pick.
Yeah.
Like these days, if it was like people that are a little hot, like hotter now, like some of the bands like Lamb of God or Corey Taylor and Dave Grohl.
Yeah, something more current.
Dave Grohl,
exactly. Yeah.
Hey, you had Tom Morello there. You could have had Rage Against the Machine do a Kiss cover.
Mm-hmm.
Or something. Because what I really found interesting what Tom Morello was talking about when you go watch it, it made me think of our episode 2 when we talked about the riffs of Kiss, because that's what he taught. He talked about the first concert he ever saw was Kiss and how it was the riffs and how it was. He talked about each component of the band, same as we did. Right, when we talked about that, when we talked about the Ace and Peter special, right? So anyway, it was, what? At the end of the day, it also goes to show, man, oh man, what speculation was going on before that show. And I remember someone sent me a clip saying, Vinnie Vincent to attend, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it was in a news article. I said, yeah, whatever. The only thing I believe is history, right? So unless it actually happens, then so anyway. Interestingly enough, I shared a clip today. Kiss was on the Tonight Show.
Jimmy Kimmel last night.
No, Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. And they played some old. They started. What I saw was a clip of them playing
King of the Nighttime World.
Well, I didn't see that clip. I saw them playing.
I saw that. I saw it live.
Okay, I saw them playing Hotter Than Hell in the Firehouse, and then they did Black Diamond.
Yeah. Now I watched that online, so someone put that up,
too, yeah.
And I was watching it online, and then my buddy Dennis, he pings me on Facebook. He said, "Kiss are coming on Jimmy Fallon right now."
Right.
And I was just about to go to bed. I said, I don't need to stay up to watch. It was 1:30 in the morning. But I said, okay, since he pinged me, I might as well get up and turn on the TV. And so I watched them do King of the Nighttime World. It was pretty good. Paul sang good.
He sang okay.
Not great, but he sang good.
He sang good in Hotter Than Hell as well. And then, then it kind of fell apart in Firehouse. He
should have been a Gene song in there.
Yeah, well, I think Gene had the flu or something like that. He was stuffed up.
Did
he was actually stuffed up at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when you listen to it close.
Okay.
So they did Firehouse, and you could tell Paul's. But
I still say let Peter sing.
Gene's doing the Paul parts, and the audience is doing Paul parts. Sometimes you can tell. It's just the thing. The more he gets into it, the further he goes. Then it's he starts off okay, then he trails off. But that's just the way it is. So anyway, They played Hotter Than Hell last night.
Yeah, that's something that we don't get much.
And it was awesome, by the way.
I certainly didn't get it from my $100 at Harbor Station last summer.
It was heavy.
I didn't get any cool Kiss.
That was a really cool. Yeah. It came off really well, really heavy. Everything sounded great in that song, really. So why do I keep mentioning that to you? They played Hotter Than Hell last night.
Yeah, well, maybe we should start our topic. You think?
Well, I thought.
So we got 45 minutes left to delve into our.
I thought you might just kind of transition in there. I threw it.
Segue. Oh, you're looking. For
I
a segue.
gave you 3 times now. I want to take it.
So, Jeff, what's our topic tonight?
I don't know. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They played Hotter Than Hell last night.
Did they? Wow, you don't get that very often, do you? Okay, 1974, Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah.
Second release. Now, Jeff, there's some interesting trivia that I just found out on Wikipedia, having read about this.
Okay.
They recorded their first album in New York.
Yep.
And then they went out west, out to L.A. to record their second album. Do you know why they did that?
Because of the producers.
Yeah, Richie Weiss and Kenny Kerner had moved to L.A., so they wanted the same producers. And it always bothered me that they produced the first album as well, and yet the two albums sound so different. The tone is so dark on We'll get to that later when we talk about tone.
Okay.
But the albums do sound different, and that's the reason for it. Was different studio, same producers, but different carpet.
Yeah, and I know that's why they went out there. And you know what made me think of? Remember on Christine 16 episode, she asked us a question about why they went out to California. But I think that was later what she was talking about. But,
later when they became movie stars.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what the original idea was for the title of Hotter Than Hell?
Oh, harder than anything or something like that. I can't remember.
The harder they come.
Oh, it's pretty close. The harder they.
The way I say it, Kiss should never use the word "come" in any of their titles.
Oh man. Oh, There's been so many bad jokes by them on that. Eh?
Yeah.
It's a buffet. Yeah. It's a buffet.
It mentions that there are 3 songs penned by Ace Frehley on it. What are the three songs?
Strange Ways, Parasite. What's the other one? I can't.
You don't think of it as an Ace song. It's more of a Paul song.
I can't remember one. What's the third one?
Well, it's Coming Home.
Oh, really?
And well, I'm not looking at my album. I'm looking at Wikipedia, but it says Frehley, Stanley.
Okay.
They didn't team up much on songs.
No.
Flaming Youth on Destroyer is billed as Frehley and Stanley.
What I didn't realize he sang background
So you don't
too.
get too many
He sang
of those.
background vocals on that.
And he did sing background vocals on stuff. He plays bass on a lot of tracks.
Parasite.
As well, so.
He played bass on Parasite on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a little research too. I don't have my 4 pages of notes like I did for Detroit Rock City, the motion picture, but
No, you're already prepared for that one.
that's a good thing.
All right, so I got a list of topics here. I don't know if I can stick to my list or not.
Well,
but
start it off.
yeah, we talked about trivia. Let's go straight to artwork. We covered this album. When
Artwork.
we did.
You and artwork. Covers. We did it twice already.
You know, Jeff, it's an important part of the package.
Yeah, well, we already did.
Oh,
we did it.
do you know that this month they've re-released a lot of classic Kiss on vinyl? Someone submitted a photo of a store display, and it shows all the records, and apparently it has all the Casablanca labels inside, and it has the same candy, the posters and the inserts and the booklets.
What else you got on your list there, though? I mean, you get some. We can get to if we get back to artwork.
Well, I'll get back to artwork. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Tone.
Yeah.
The tone of the album. Yeah. Just if I had to choose one album that I would call dark, it would have to be Hotter Than Hell. And I don't know why, but it just seems like the tom-toms are huge. They're like cannons. You know, when you get those tom-toms going, it's just big. Maybe they used a ton of reverb. And yet they used a lot of they make the drums sound big on Destroyer. The difference is Destroyer seems to have space, but Hotter Than Hell just sounds dark. Do you get that when you listen to it?
I think of a number of things when I listen to that sound. It sounds tinny to me. It sounds metallic to me. I don't mean metal, but I mean it sounds like
tinny.
It's like you recorded it through tinfoil. And it's fuzzy, and it's the question I have to ask is when you heard that album, if you were recording that album, who in this world would have thought that production sounded good while they were doing it?
Well, the kids of 1974 and 75 certainly didn't. No one was buying the albums. The album went gold in 1977.
It sold less than the first one.
Mainly because of the popularity of the band at that time. So people had bought Kiss Alive and Destroyer. We're now up to Kiss Alive 2. So, like me, I came on board late, but you know, if a Kiss album appeared in the record store, I bought it because it was a Kiss album. But yeah,
it was bizarre. I mean, the sound is bizarre because there's nothing I can point to on that album from a sound perspective, just the tone that I like. I don't like the sound of I hate the sound of the guitars. Every single guitar on there, I hate the sound of. I shouldn't say that. Strange Ways doesn't sound too bad. It sounds a little better than the other songs from a tone.
Strange Ways is like a diamond in the rough on that one. You got to give kudos.
Even
to
all the ways got a little better tone than some, but like I mean, God to choose is like grading.
This is the first song when you buy the album, and I mean, I know you can play either side of the album, but if you're like me, any album you bought, you made sure you played side one first.
Yeah, of course.
just for the, whatever. And that song, Got to Choose, those first 2 notes, I've said this before in another episode, man, it sounds like a freaking car horn.
Yeah.
And I swear, we put this album on the platter. We'd never heard, I heard Got to Choose on Kiss Alive. But we put this on the platter, and the first thing I thought was a car horn. And I think my buddy who was with me at the time, he said, was that a car? Then we realized, play that again. Put that needle back again. And we said, yeah, that is the guitar.
Right.
That's just a bizarre sound off the top. Right off the top.
thing-
The most disgusting sounding guitar I've heard on a Kiss album.
Very productive album from a content perspective. You know, like a bunch of
It's got good content.
really good songs. I'm just trying, like,
Yeah.
I'm baffled by the band and the
Yeah.
producers thinking that was it. I'm thinking back to when it was produced, and it would at that time, it came out in October, I think, '74. Imagine what that would have sounded like compared to everything else at the time. It would have sounded. Like I said, I can't imagine how anyone could look at this and say, "Whoa, that's a really good sound. I really like the production value of this." Listen to the lows. Listen, there was nothing. The vocals didn't sound good on it.
And yet, I've said before, one of my favorite sounding albums is Kiss. The first album has amazing depth and space and tone, and I just love it. I fell in love with that album all over again. I was out for a little jog, and I had it in my ears, and I thought, wow, the tone was just blowing me away.
Yeah.
And here you are, probably less than a year later, same producers, same band.
I only listen. Yeah, I own
nothing the same.
I only listen to Hotter Than Hell. The only songs I listen to on Hotter Than Hell are the ones I can't get elsewhere. So if I can't, so like All the Way, a Main Line, Strange Ways.
Yeah. Strange Ways. I'd love to hear a live version of Strange
Oh
Ways.
yeah. Oh, well,
I don't know. I don't think they've ever done that one.
Well, Blair and I did. You can listen to that one, but it's
okay. There you go.
But it's
East Coast Kiss tribute.
yeah, Sherp Dude. Yeah. If you go to anyway, won't go there. But so the album itself baffled me that way. Like I said, I don't listen to any of the track. Like, think of the treatment of Parasite compared to thank God for Alive. Because you think of the difference in the treatment of Parasite, the guitar sound of Parasite, that percussive, nice tone, Ace Frehley tone, and then you think of the and all this slapback stuff going on all over the place, and just muddy.
You know, something I've often thought about when listening to Hotter Than Hell. It's almost like someone spray painted the strings with rubber. That's something I often think about when pick some of the songs from Hotter Than Hell and I'm playing them, and it's like, why it just rubber. It's almost like you coated the strings with some rubber gunk or rubber cement or something. It just sounds as if the strings are not really, they're not ringing, they're not resonating, they're just sort of vibrating under rubber. It's weird. It's like it's underwater. There's another analogy.
Yeah,
it just sounds like everything's underwater.
Now, having said that, like I said, from a content perspective, overall, it's probably right on par with Kiss in terms of really close to as far as the amount of iconic content that comes out of it. We've talked about "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" before and how that was a bastardized version of that on Hotter Than Hell.
They've just used that as a staple for years and years. And you and I both agreed it's probably one of our top 10, if not the top.
And I'm sure they couldn't put
favorite song is the live version on.
And I'm sure they couldn't put that version on record. You know what I mean? Like, it was so long.
No. It's very short on the studio version. It's only 2 minutes and some odd
Makes
seconds.
you think
so it's a very short version.
That was their only single from that album.
Did they actually have a singles from Hotter Than Hell? Let Me Go Rock and Roll. What was on the flip side?
Oh God, I don't know. Then she kissed.
Hey, if you knew that trivia, I figured.
And then she kissed me.
Oh no, it wasn't.
It was God of Thunder. It was War Machine.
Oh yeah.
It was
Domino.
No, it was Look It Up.
There you
go. So interestingly enough, though, think about the time too. What always interested me too was like, Kiss came out in February '74. And
February 18th, and we did our commemorative show last February month.
May, June, July, August, September, October.
This one came out in October.
8 months later.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the bands used to do that, though.
And they were on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
They were, and they get pulled back in to do that, but it's...
They were on the road. I mean, they had... See, here's the thing. I think they were playing a lot of this stuff in their sets. right? I mean, if you take, let me just think, like in their very first appearances, you would have heard
Watching You, a version of that.
Watching You, maybe, yeah. Parasite, I think they were doing that very early on. Some of this stuff was being used in their live sets, never made it to the first album. So I think when they went into the studio, they actually had some stuff under their belt. It's not like they had to sit down and write it all. Maybe, I don't know.
The material from that album actually eclipses.
Sorry,
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I got mixed up on something.
Oh,
there.
did you? Okay.
No, I thought it said June 74, but I was looking at something else. It was October 74 that it came
Right.
out.
Yeah, so I was thinking about, I really like Dress to Kill, for instance, but from an iconic content perspective, a lot of that material never made it to like Kiss Alive. Like much more of the material from from Hotter Than Hell it became more iconic. Now, mind you, that's one of the things I love about Dress to Kill is those songs that weren't performed live. That you got that it's extra material for you if you started with Kiss Alive like I did, and it's the same. It's the same thing with Hotter Than Hell. Like originally Going Blind, even though I don't like the sound of it, the song itself is so quirky.
It's a great
main
song,
line,
yeah. and it was such a treat when they did it live on the MTV Unplugged.
Well, that was really good.
We weren't expecting that. We weren't expecting Coming Home.
Yeah,
those were treats. We didn't expect.
And
what
was with he changing the line to the land beneath the sea? I mean,
I thought he said through the something in Deep Blue Sea.
No,
yeah,
he changed it to from the land below the sea. He says,
okay.
on the acoustic version. But like from Hotter Than Hell, like you say, take those bonus. To me, they're like bonus tracks, like All the Way, Coming Home, Mainline, Strange Ways, Going Blind. Those are all like things I never heard, because I went back to those, right? Like I said before, I went back and got the originals and then listened to that, and then almost all of Dress to Kill is like that. Like there's a whole bunch of material on Dress to Kill. It's the same way. It's all Room Service, Two Timer, Ladies in Waiting, all this stuff that you don't get. So Hotter Than Hell had its share of that too, though.
Oh yeah, another little bit of trivia for you. Our friend Stephen Coronel has a co-writing credit on Hotter Than Hell. Which song is that?
That would be Going Blind.
Going Blind, yeah.
And that's a weird song. I mean, It
is weird. That's so un-Kiss like. It's right up there with Great Expectations. That's very un-Kiss like. These songs just don't seem to fit.
Well, what is it really
about? But it's a good song. I like it.
Why would you write a song about that? And it's kind of bizarre. I mean, it
was kind of Christine 16-ish in a way too.
Very much so. I mean, if you think I'm 93, you're 16, right? Is that what he says in the song? Like you gotta think that's.
I don't know if that's to be taken literally or if it means something else. I don't know.
Well, I think that. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what makes it weird. Like that whole lyric to that song and the sound of it. I actually like playing that song. It's a fun song to play. Right, on the guitar and sing and mess around with. The bass is really tough. You think about Gene. I'll tell you that show. Remember we talked about how good a bass player Gene is and how he doesn't get recognized for it. Watch him sing it live at the MTV Unplugged, and watch.
Yeah, and he never looks at his fingers.
And watch the riffs he's playing while he's singing. Yeah. He's playing. They're not even they're nowhere near syncopated. So he's playing a run. He's playing a run that is completely different than what you sing. If you don't sing and play guitar, you don't realize this, but that's really, really difficult to do.
And I have noticed that on that when Gene is doing Going Blind, I did notice the patterns he's playing with the bass and thought, yeah, that does look.
Well, it's almost a melody.
Something I couldn't do. He's playing his own independent melody. Yes.
Well, you could play,
and a lot of Kiss basses do.
Absolutely, that melody is specific. It's a melody within. That's the problem. It's sort of like you play a melody on the guitar, and then you have to sing a different melody. The only other person I could see that I've ever seen that does that really well is Geddy Lee from Rush. He completely does that all the time. And it's the same, but Gene does it too. Like he's playing bass is hard to sing, actually, unless it's the But after
and that's usually what you get in rock bass. That's why Gene is different. That's why Steve Harris is different. That's why Geddy Lee are different. They're actually applying bass techniques to rock and roll.
You know what's interesting?
but a lot of people are just thumping that the eighth notes.
What's
I hate that. I can't stand
it. Depends. It depends on the song. Sometimes it has an effect. And AC/DC does it well. But it's but what was I going to say? Oh, shoot! Where'd it go? I had it in my head. Ah,
you had a thought.
I lost it. Oh, what was that?
Your train of thought derailed.
What was it? I had to do with Gene. Keep going. It'll come back to me.
Talking about Gene Simmons playing bass and not looking at his fingers.
Oh, yeah. I know what it was now.
Singing independently.
I got some, there's been a whole bunch of material from some really early shows they did there. And I can't remember if it was the Coventry or some of these other places, but there were some early versions of Kiss songs they were doing as a band. You could tell it's the band.
Yep.
And it's really interesting because you see them developing the songs. You can see the rudiments of the parts coming together. But I can tell you the biggest thing I noticed was the bass has really developed over time. In their earliest incarnation, the bass was just like we said we didn't want it to be. It was like that, and then he changed it over, and then he became much more Beatlesque with it, right? Like Paul McCartney's another great. I think he emulated Paul McCartney.
It's like his fingers are playing Mozart, and he's singing something completely different. And Paul McCartney. My God.
Well, there you go. That's the thing. That's the same idea, right? And that was important because that was one of those four things that made Kiss unique. Bass runs were unique. Drums were unique. Lead guitar was unique, and the Beatlesque vocals.
And Paul was great.
And the vocals, the vocal stylings and harmonies were interesting as well for a rock band. Right?
But it's interesting that it's credited that Ace does a lot of his own bass work on his songs, and I think it's because Ace songs, only Ace would probably know how to approach the bass for those. I think Gene would look at something like Shock Me or Parasite or Strange Ways and thinking, I can't apply what I do on the bass to that, so you might as well just take it and do your own.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a Gene Simmons song, even a Paul Stanley song, I think Gene can approach that bass playing from a Beatlesque kind of technique, but not be able to apply that to what the kind of stuff that Ace writes.
Ace writes very unique songs, as does Gene. But Ace, you can tell an Ace riff from a Paul riff, and
chromatic.
Yeah, absolutely. He write things like Parasite. He's writing in flats, and he's all these kind of different things. Strange Ways got some wacky stuff in it too. But
Strange Ways.
But I don't know what I don't know how many songs. I know for sure on Harder Than Hell. It only the thing I saw stated that he played bass on Parasite, but I didn't see it saying he played bass on anything else on that album. So I don't know. Gene has that. If you ever want to sort of figure out what's really unique about Gene's bass, go listen to Hotter Than Hell. Bass run and the chorus of that and is anyway. So Hotter Than Hell itself, you got some. What else you got? Like you got your list there.
Well, I was just gonna say, like best track and worst track. Let's tear it apart.
Okay.
Let's deconstruct.
Okay.
What's your worst track? Your least favorite.
Let Me Go Rock and Roll.
Really?
Yeah, just because.
And yet when we did our top 13 list, that was your number one.
But
song
that version of it though is like it's
night and day.
It's like only just getting started and the sound sucks. You know what I mean? It's like in the guitar and it just doesn't have that. They like take the difference in the tone of the guitar on live, like Paul Stanley's rhythm guitar on a live versus the tone of the guitar on that. And the other one that's close to that is I really don't like. I don't like Got to Choose on that album, and I don't as far as here's the problem though, because you're always comparing it against a live.
The live version.
Now, Coming Home is another one that I didn't like at all on Hotter Than Hell, the album. I liked it acoustically when they did it.
Yeah,
when they did it.
That works as an acoustic.
Yeah, but I didn't like it there. So I would say what about you? Mine is Let Me Go Rock and Roll.
I think I'd have to say Main Line.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I really get the title, and I don't know if I don't listen to words. I'd have to listen to it again. Maybe I'd see something in it, but I'm just looking at the list here without really having the album playing.
Yeah.
But Mainline did absolutely nothing for me, and I love Peter Criss's vocals. He's great, but I don't know. It's very non-Kiss like. It's doesn't really have a groove or a catch to it. And
It's not as developed. It has this developmental. It's almost.
it's kind of boring in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of flat in the middle of it. Then there are some interesting parts. I kind of like that the little intro is kind of, when you first hear it, it's like,
It's too much cowbell.
not you can never get too much cowbell. I want more cowbell, lots of cowbell, right? That's a skit. That's a skit that I thought was stupid at first, but the longer I watched, I thought was funnier to hell.
It's iconic.
Oh my god! But yeah, so that was I don't disagree with you on that one. That would be in my bottom,
Yeah.
25%.
Yeah, that and Coming Home. Let Me Go has just been there from day one, and we just every time I hear it live, I'm into it. So I don't think I could really / Let Me Go rock and roll. It's like I said, I agree with what you're saying. It does. It's not as exciting. It's not exciting at all. On
Everything that made it great on a live was missing.
But it survived. That song has survived decades and decades.
But that shows you what. But that shows you what they're really good at doing. They've continuously taken bits of this song that started out here, and then they pulled it out and put it over there, and then put it over, and then take. It's the same thing with Let Me Go Rock and Roll, and we talked about She before, the end of She, and what was it? Oh, Let Me Go. No, Let Me Know. The end of Let Me Know goes into She now and the live version and all those kind of little things, right? But so that's not too hard. You want to flip it?
So what's your gem?
Okay.
One you could never live without.
Oh wow! You see, you changed it. So what do you? I always kind of curious.
Oh, your favorite track.
So what do you think my favorite track is?
What do I think your favorite track is? You're gonna say. See, I don't know. You're kind of stuck on tone, and I want to go by content.
No. I want to go. No, it's not. It's about. No, I'm thinking of it on that album. The way it sounds on that album.
The way it sounds. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna. The Parasite or Strange Ways. So I'm gonna say Strange Ways.
Parasite and definitely not. No,
because you don't like the sound.
Right. No. Right, and I don't. So, but the song isn't anywhere near as interesting on that album. And it's not. It has to see tone. It has to have tone for me to like it. Even if even if the notes are perfect, the tone doesn't. If the tone isn't there, I can't stand it. So that would be one of my top two. Like I would say, Strange Ways, and I really, really came to love All the Way. I
love that. That's a gem.
And then
what was that?
That's what they start the song off with.
What part
if
was
you
that?
listen, and they start before they play. All in the background, all you hear is if you listen close, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, bam.
Oh
bam,
yeah, counting it in. Yeah.
Bam,
No, it was so distorted in my head.
I always heard. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, let me do it again.
No, it was just inaudible.
Yeah, it was. But I did that once in a jam when Blair and I played it one time in a jam, and I tore my throat off doing that. But I just love that. How the lead guitar in that is great. The riff is great.
Oh, it's a great song. And you know something? It's a Gene song, so Gene is still singing. I know they did it on the Kiss Cruise. Why aren't we getting All the Way in live performances? I didn't get it last summer.
Yeah, we've done. I
think it's an easy song to pull.
I know why, because I mean, let's face it.
It hasn't been used.
No, they go every single time they play for the diehards. They give the diehards what they want. They go on the cruise.
Exactly.
They give them all this stuff, and they love it.
Room
they
service,
love doing it.
Ladies in waiting.
But as soon as they go on the road, when it's all these people who aren't fans, they got
God of Thunder. I love it.
They got to play that stuff. That's just the way it is. And they're not. I guess they're not stupid. But I guess my point was it wouldn't matter to the people. If people aren't fans, they don't give a shit what you're playing anyway. So they're just looking. Oh wow!
Yeah, exactly.
What a bomb! Oh jeez.
It's like. Exactly. Like I brought my wife to the concert this summer. All she knew was I was made for loving you and rock and roll all night. Detroit Rock City. I mean, if they played "I Love It Loud," if they substituted "I Love It Loud" for "All the Way," she wouldn't know the difference, and I'd be in my glee.
It all sucks to her.
So, that's right. It was all noise to her. Well, listen, getting off on a tangent. It was kind of noisy anyway. Yeah. Like I said many times over, the only way I knew the opening song was Psycho Circus because I knew they were doing Psycho Circus. Yeah, no. Other than that, the sound was so terrible.
So what was your favorite one?
I'm kind of stuck between Strange Ways and All the Way.
Oh.
I think All the Way is definitely one of my favorite all-time, one of those ones that just kind of got forgotten. It's never been done live. They don't tour with it. And Strange Ways, what a combination of Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. My God, it's dark, but it's dark in a good way. It's aggressive. It's frightening in places. It's bold. It's different, and it just grabs you. That is just, it's like nothing else. Even on Ace's solo album, there's nothing on there that sounds like Strange Ways.
Two great. When you think of the leads on those two songs,
Oh,
the lead
man.
guitar on All the Way is outstanding. That's one of the few songs.
Yep.
Like I said, the tone almost works for me on that song. And Strange Ways, like it's interesting because in Strange Ways, did you hear the story? Like how many, something that they used in the Strange Ways, which they very rarely use, was a guitar effect. Like Ace Frehley almost never uses a really obtrusive guitar effect, but he did on that.
You'll hear a little bit of flanger on Rocket Ride, and other than that, no, you don't hear much. They're not into the effects.
But Strange Ways had I don't know if it was a lot of.
I think he's using a wah pedal.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just very Jimi Hendrix.
Do you know the story behind that lead?
No, I do not. Tell me.
The story that I heard, and that's why I'm going to position it, because I don't want to position these things as fact, because everybody talks about facts, and really all they heard about was on a Facebook page. So, but the story I read was that he was loaded when he did that, and they got these effects going. That he just
Jeff, that's just given.
But no, I mean seriously.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part you said. He was loaded,
and they that's why they got these effects going, and he just he went in there one night loaded and just pulled that off in a one take kind of thing, and you can tell because think of the lead. If you're a guitar player,
it's very loose.
It's very different.
It's not structured.
It's not
all.
pentatonic. Well,
it's loose. It's all over.
You know how he plays. I mean, he writes his leads, and it's not. There's probably. I'm sure there's elements of it being pentatonic, but largely it's much more Jimi Hendrixy. You know what I mean? And it's very different for him.
Oh, very.
The first time I heard that lead, I thought, wow, this is really different for him. It's sort of like when I heard the lead "Sweet Pain." Now I know why. Why it was so different when he did "Sweet Pain," because he didn't do "Sweet Pain," but.
No, that's not him.
That's why it didn't sound. Whoa, that sounds different for Ace Frehley. But I agree with those choices, obviously, because I said the same ones. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Best vocal and worst vocal.
Oh, okay. Well, best vocal has to be then. I like Peter Criss's vocal on "Strange Ways." There's probably going to be a pattern here. I just think that's a great vocal. I like. I can't really say the rest of the vocals really weren't a big part of it for me, and even watching you.
It's not a great vocal album, and even Paul's songs. I don't think Paul is really shining.
No.
On anything there is.
That's the production, though. No. It's that. There it goes back to that production again. Is that production was so muddy and tinny that the vocals really could never shine, right? Because they never really stood out, right?
I give kudos to Gene for doing "Going Blind." Because it's it's a ballady kind of song, and singing notes that are not your typical kind of Gene stuff. He's singing, which I like on Gene's solo album. I like Gene's solo album for the vocal work. I think he's not the greatest singer in the world, but when Gene sings, I like some of what he does, I like "Going Blind" for that reason. That's the kind of song you'd almost assume that Paul's going to sing it.
Gene has it,
but Gene did a great job on that.
Yeah, Gene gets it. Everyone, he does those harsh ones, but he also does. He has this really good timbre in his voice when he does those. He does those kind of songs.
The original album of Wicked Lester.
Yeah.
There's a song on it called "When the Bell Rings," and that's my favorite track, and it's a Gene song. I don't know if you've ever heard Wicked Lester album.
No.
But "When the Bell Rings," just Gene's voice in that is just so likable and rich and almost more likable than Paul's.
Yeah, I mean, no, Gene's vocals sometimes, I tell you, I love things like "Ladies in Waiting" and "Two Timer" and Gene's live vocals. Sorry, not live vocals, but he has some really good.
Yeah.
He has some strong vocals. They listen. They both. When they are really focused, they can when they don't have their vocal cords shredded, they could very much, they're very, like I said, I always found them to be very Beatlesque. And when you start breaking down what they're doing, there's there's two guitars, maybe three guitars total. There's one bass. There's three vocals usually, and they're all structured in a way so they all fit in a pattern. Even the guitar tones are built in a certain way. more trebly, more bassy. So the dynamics, they thought about everything. That's why this album was so surprising. The dynamics were totally shot. It was like, zzz, like a circular saw.
Worst vocal. I guess the whole thing is not really.
I can't even really. I didn't like that. Well, I didn't like. I hated the. You know what? The versus the live album. I despised the vocal "Forgot to Choose." I found that the harmonies in that were so overdone that it sounded grating. Like the high vocal in the little parts before he sings. Sometimes whatever that starts out with. There's the harmony piece before he goes into it. Just it's like, ugh. Okay. Ugh. They did it again. Right.
Yeah.
That would be mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I just, like I say, nothing really jumps out at me as being great on this album in terms
Vocals,
of vocal work.
yeah.
So I don't think there's anything on this really bad. I just don't like Mainline. I just don't think it really fits. And I think Peter's a great singer, but I don't know.
It's just.
I don't think anyone could have sung that and did it and made it into a good Kiss song.
I'm surprised they couldn't come up with something little, like I'm glad
because something like they've been doing right from Wicked Lester, and yet it appears on Dress to Kill. How come She wasn't on the first album? How come She wasn't on Harder Than Hell?
maybe they need.
Where did She go?
Well, maybe though. I think they had that vision of themselves as being, Ringo, Paul, John, and George. And I think that what the Beatles did was they had different people doing different things, and I think that made them.
And you do something like Mainline, which is very Beatles-esque, and to me, the most Beatles-sounding person in the band is Peter Criss. He does a very good Paul.
Yeah, but what I was getting at was that you have to have on your album that in order to be Beatles, you need to have so many. Peter Criss has to have so many vocals, and not to satisfy Peter, but to satisfy the idea. You know what I mean? To satisfy the idea that there's Gene, Paul, Peter, and Ace, and then Gene does this many songs, and it's a Paul song. We said it's a Paul song. We talk about it, don't we? A Paul song, a Gene song, a Peter song, an Ace song, right? So it was very effective that way. So I think that's probably why it's sort of like on Psycho Circus, they had to have like that
exactly.
Right?
You had to have all your icons represented.
Right.
Yeah. So we got 10 tracks on Hotter Than Hell.
Right.
How many Paul Stanley songs, lead vocal, do we get out of 10?
Oh gosh, I have to go through it. I don't know. Tell me. Do you know?
It's pretty low. I'm looking at the list right here. 3.
That's it. Out of 10.
3. We got to choose.
Yep.
Hotter Than Hell, and Coming Home.
Wow. Interesting.
Simmons has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Gene got a lot more work on that album, and Peter Criss had 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. And I'm just curious, and just it's funny though because the material just develops as it develops, right? So and then the next album, we'll get to that sometime. But I don't know. I didn't know that. I didn't really thought about that.
That's a pretty low ratio when you consider really Paul is the shining rock star vocally.
But I don't think that was the case.
In Kiss.
I don't think that was the case originally, though. He didn't become this singer. If you think about his vocals, up until Alive, even including Alive, he would have been nobody would have considered him to be this fantastic singer versus Gene. At that point, it came later. It came when
it did. It developed later when he became this vocal acrobat.
And that happened. I would say it started on Rock and Roll Over.
Well, you consider Detroit Rock City.
Oh yeah,
he's nailing some pretty hard stuff on that.
Yeah, maybe that album a little bit more actually. Now you mention it.
I think any lead vocalist, the yardstick by which you'd measure by is just Freddie Mercury. So, when you start doing Freddie Mercury-esque acrobatics, that's when you can say,
Detroit, to me, I think you're right.
You're a rock vocalist.
I remember thinking from a vocal perspective. I remember the first time I heard Detroit Rock City. That was an epic moment for Paul Stanley vocals. It went like boom,
yeah.
and then the next album was like I Want You and Making
That
Love.
became big,
and then every album after that, it became this big kick ass I Stole Your Love, Love Gun. And it's gradually.
I Still Love You.
It's still burned on and on, right?
Big.
Oh, that's. You know what?
And now he can't do that anymore. And now people are coming down so hard on Paul because he can't do that anymore. And like you say, the first 3 studio albums, he wasn't that kind of singer.
He wasn't at all.
He wasn't doing those. He wasn't a frigging.
I still like said this before. I still like my favorite type of vocal that Paul Stanley does is like the live version of Rock Bottom, like that harsh, in your face, tough kind of vocal, as opposed to the melodic vocals. But that's just personal taste. But yeah, I don't think early on it was that way at all. So that didn't surprise. So to look back at Hard in Hell and say that he didn't have that many vocals, wasn't.
We're in our last 10 minutes. Impact of this album, or the relevance of this album. I mean, we all know, and when you look at the Kiss discography, the most relevant albums would have to be, Kiss Alive and Destroyer, and I think everything after that certainly had relevance because people were anticipating those albums. How do we look at Hotter Than Hell as having any kind of impact or relevance to history?
Oh, it's huge because the material, and that comes from the material. As I said, as you go to Kiss Alive and start pulling apart the songs, there were some really important songs on Kiss Alive that came from that. You got God to Choose. You had Hotter Than Hell. You had Parasite. You had Watchin' You. I think that might be it. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. 5 songs on that came from that album. So
yeah,
but that's it though. And I think
but those songs are relevant because they're on Kiss Alive, and I think they're better on Kiss Alive.
But you asked me what's the
relevance and impact of this
the impact
album?
Okay, so you don't have Kiss Alive without Hotter Than Hell. Is what I'm saying. Is that you can't. That's to me. So that's what I'm saying. Is that it was the precursor to it was the training ground for the material. And I think they probably learned some lessons from that album too. That's the relevance of it too, in terms of what not to do.
That early in your career, you're definitely going to be learning.
Right.
You're still on your
What do you
learning
think about
curve,
that? What's your thoughts about that relevance?
I kind of look at Hotter Than Hell as having very little impact on their career. I'm sure it had a huge impact on them at the time because they were so new and so fresh. And here we are with our second album. But I think as a Kiss fan, someone who's... And at the time, I had heard Kiss Alive. I had heard Destroyer. I think we had a couple of other ones. We didn't get Hotter Than Hell until a little bit later. No, I think that you could almost... I'd get beer bottles thrown at me for saying this, but I think you could almost erase Hotter Than Hell from the discography, and I don't think it would make a huge amount of difference. And by saying that, I think that it has little impact on the whole scope of what Kiss has produced.
I think it has as much impact as anything after Dynasty.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah.
Oh, seriously.
No, because you're talking about the genesis of the band, and I'll certainly sit down and listen to this album before I'll listen to Hot in the Shade or. Any of those.
So those albums, like I listen to those things for different reasons, right? So, when I listen to Hot in the Shade, it makes me think of a time and a place and friends and different things like that. But no, from a relevance perspective, it's as relevant as anything to me after Dynasty.
It's more relevant than anything they did, yes, after the makeup came off. But in terms of that first decade, I think... Destroyer is so relevant. Kiss Alive is so relevant. Hotter Than Hell and Love Gun, because of at that time who they were at that time. They were mega superstars, and anything they put out was just so anticipated. I think the sales of Hotter Than Hell were very dismal at the beginning, and it was only after that they become superstars that people said, "Oh, look, here's a Kiss album. We don't have this one, so you might as well buy it." And I think that's why it sold, because it was just part of the Kiss catalog.
Yeah, I get the question. I guess to me, like I've always say this, is that you're always you're a function of everything that you've ever done. And
Exactly.
Love Gun, and I don't think they could. I think Love Gun and Detroit Rock City, all that stuff came out of something they learned from previous things. So, but yeah, as far as the album itself, certainly it's not going to. I've already said my piece. So,
yeah. And we'll get back to the artwork because you.
No, we don't have to do. Why do we have to do artwork? We've done it twice.
Well, I'm just going to just recap what we've done in our previous episodes. It's just I just thought it was poor production.
We got like 4 minutes left. We should
do
something new.
So we got to do something new.
Yeah. Well,
hey, something? The Hotter Than Hell album cover makes a great. When the filter in your air exchanger goes out. When you need to replace it, you can just punch holes in the Hotter Than Hell album cover and put it in your air exchange.
Well, I was reading today. I think we might have talked about that. That
as a cutting board, if your cutting board broke,
yeah.
a makeshift cutting board.
Right.
Right.
And you could use it for lots of different things. You could use it to cut, to roll your joints. You could use it to
exactly.
You could,
when you're warm in the summer, you can use it to fan yourself. It has a million and one uses for a Hotter Than Hell album.
And
cover.
it's and my understanding was they had to airbrush Ace Frehley's face because he had been in a car accident.
They did, and all the shots he was only wearing half face makeup because of a car accident. So
yeah. I mean, you can talk about the artwork if you want to, but I mean,
I'm done. I've said what I want to say. It sucks. It's bad photography. That's it.
I know. You said that. Said that.
The original photo is actually quite good. It's clear. It's in color.
So we did.
What ended up on the album is, I don't know.
So we decided to talk about this one a little bit early rather than wait till October, and I don't know why. I think because why did we decide to talk about this? Doesn't really matter, but I mean.
I think we were just we had a few topics that we were tossing around, and we thought we'd do this one. So
yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, I listen. I enjoy that because it takes you down different roads, right? And so anyway, I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about the album.
All right.
So we're down to our last 2 minutes. Final thoughts, Jeff Gray.
I don't know. My final thoughts. What are we going to talk about next time? Any ideas?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to Skype and come up with something.
Yeah. So we'll get the next.
We do have some exciting things for 2014. So.
Yeah, we do. We got some ideas we got to dust off, and we'll get the next show. We'll get this one out, and then the next one won't quite take so long. So most of our vacations are out of the way. Right.
Yeah.
We got to get that jam together. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, something we definitely want to do sometime this calendar year is to get together, the three of us, and jam and record some of that and get it up as East Coast Kiss Tribute. And that's long overdue, so we're definitely going to get that for you.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was a good discussion, Jeff.
I agree.
Always nice hanging out with you.
You too.
Yeah. So this is Jeff Gray. Sorry. This is Jeff Scott. I don't know who I am.
In northern New Brunswick.
In northern New Brunswick, the ice capital of the world.
Yeah.
No, it was a nice day today. I had my motorcycle out for the first time in 2014. It was lovely. It was kind of warm. So this is Jeff Scott in southern New Brunswick.
And I'm Jeff Gray in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia.
Join us next time when you can win $50,000 on Watchin' You. All right, good night, folks.
Good night.